The survivor is left with fundamental problems in basic trust, autonomy, and initiative. She approaches the task of early adulthood, burdened by major impairments in self care, in cognition and in memory, in identity, and in the capacity to form stable relationships. Judith Lewis Herman, Trauma and Recovery. My topic is child abuse. Child abuse is an epidemic throughout the world and is considered as one of the most heinous forms of abuse. Not only is it emotional, sexual, or physical, it causes mental and physical distress, harm, and disturbance to children and affects their health. Child abuse kills more children than accidental falls, choking on food, suffocation, or fires in the home. Every year, more than 3.6 million referrals are made to child protection agencies involving more than 6.6 million children. According to childhelp.org, the United States has one of the worst records among industrialized nations, losing on average between 4 and 7 children every day to child abuse and neglect. In my country, Jamaica, child abuse reported cases presented by Office of the Children's Registry states that close to 70,000 cases of child abuse were reported over 8 years from 2007, and that preliminary figures show troubling increase in the number of cases reported in 2015. Child abuse is more than just physical with bruises and broken bones. It can be verbal, psychological, emotional, sexual, and neglect. It occurs in all classes of society and is a poison that needs to be eradicated. Physical abuse includes deliberate aggressive actions in the child that inflict on the child that inflict pain, wound, unexplained bruises, burns, and sore muscles. We know a child is being physically abused when he or she shies away from touch, has welt marks, flinches at sudden movement, or is afraid to go home and wears inappropriate clothing to cover up marks. A child who has lived the nightmare of verbal abuse will always feel misunderstood or feel that they are not worthy of love or respect, and that they do not have ability or talent. If victim speaks up against these statements, they are often told that the criticism are just a joke and that it is their own problem that they do not find the joke funny. Most verbally abusive statements are camouflaged by the tone of voice, the choice of words, body language, the abuser insisting it's for your own good, and other such verbal decoys. Which leads me to my next topic, psychological abuse. Psychological abuse takes shape in the form of one person controlling the information available to another person so as to manipulate that person's sense of reality, what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. This type of abuse often is strong emotionally manipulative content designed to force the victim to comply with the abuser's wishes. For example, psychological abuse might occur when a pedophile tells a child victim that she caused him to abuse her because she tempted him. The impact of child abuse and neglect is often discussed in terms of physical, psychological, behavioral, and societal consequences. In reality, however, it is impossible to separate them completely. Did you know that when parents are continually unavailable for their children, it constitutes abuse? Neglect or the absence of parental care can have damage effects on a child's well being. It is also the most common form of child abuse. Emotional abuse results in depression and anxiety, for example, may make a person more likely to smoke, abuse alcohol or illicit drugs, or overeat, wherein psychological problems often manifest a high risk of behaviors. Sexual abuse, according to study.com, includes any type of behavior toward a child that is intended for an offender's sexual stimulation. Fondling, forced sexual acts, or indecent physical exposure. This can be one isolated event as well as incidences that can go on for years, which eventually results in risky behaviors by the victim, in turn can lead to long-term physical health problems such as sexually transmitted disease, cancer, and obesity. In most cases, statistics alone cannot convey the horror of physical assaults upon children in our society. A child who is physically abused will have a scar on the life of the child. Physical scars will be visible, but emotional scars may have the most damaging effect. Most of the children that have been abused will have trust issues and will find it difficult to build relationships. This is especially if the people who have abused them are people who they relied on for support and security. Such children will also develop the feeling of being worthless. This may affect them even in their adult life. They will be reluctant to reach for what is best for them because they feel that they are not good enough for it. Not only are abused children at later risk for mental illness, but because of the way trauma affects the stress system, they are also more vulnerable to develop chronic diseases like diabetes, high blood pressure, heart attack, and stroke. Clearly, there's a need for collaboration among psychosocial clinicians, social service agencies, and the criminal justice systems. We need to stop our young ones from being exposed to and endure physical abuse, verbal abuse, psychological abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, and neglect. If you have a reason to believe a child has been or may be harmed, call your local Department of Children and Family Services or your local police department. Break the silence and save a life. If you're a parent who is abusing your child, please stop it. Let us take a comprehensive approach in preventing and dealing with child abuse. Acknowledge abuse of children not only as a social issue, but as a health and healthcare issue. In order to make the world around us a safe place for our children, let us strongly oppose, protest, and fight against child abuse.